Hello, welcome to Future Left Podcast. I'm Adam Simpson. Here, well, I'm not always here with Casey Rogers because he's abandoned me today. What I cannot say... That's
because he doesn't love you anymore.
Apparently he doesn't love me anymore. No, that's certainly not true. He definitely loves me. But anyway, I'm here today with Michael Bufano. Michael Bufano, teacher. And as all teachers are, also a student. You know, you never stop learning when you're a teacher.
That's also true, Adam.
Also co-founder of Future Left here. So he'll be joining me today. We're going to get through some bleeding edge news today. Of course, everyone's talking about it. Our top story, the goddamn Brexit. Fucking Brits are like cheerio. We're done with this. You know what I mean? What's going on here, Mike? There was a big referendum on June 23rd, year of our Lord 2016, and 52% to 48%, the British people decided to leave the European Union.
I got to tell you, Adam, and I'm fucking pissed about this. Pardon my language, but to see something that took, almost 7 decades just to put together, to build, for it to start to fall apart like this is disappointing. It's disheartening. This was an institution that was meant to bring Europe together after World War II. It was meant to create peace, economic interconnection. It was meant to prevent World War III. It was meant to prevent another conflict. And I think up until this point, it had a great track record. I don't understand people's pessimism.
This has a lot to do with the kind of populist anti-immigrant stuff that we got going here in the old US of A, led by our own Boris Johnson type fellow by the name of Donald J. Trump. It's a global phenomenon, the rise of the irrational right, I guess.
It's not just in the UK with the Independence Party. I mean, if you go to Hungary, you've got Viktor Orban and the Fidesz Party, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You're probably not.
And probably not the Jobbik Party, which is anti-Semitic, by the way, promoting these ideas. You have in Germany the Alternative für Deutschland Party. In France, we have the Front National, led by
Marine Le Pen.
Marine Le Pen. In the Netherlands, we have
more like Marine Le Pen head. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that's an awesome one. You're a good one. Bill O'Reilly would be proud of that one.
Yeah, he would.
So, and then Netherlands, the Party for Freedom.
Led by notable Islamophobe Geert Wilders, known for his James Bond villain haircut, if I recall correct.
I think my favorite, Italy, the Five Star Movement and the Northern League, led by Matteo, Servino.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what that guy's name is. The thing is, I think a lot of this is we're drawn from the same source, Ian Bremmer's piece in Time magazine about other European countries considering the old exit, whether it's Frexit, Hungarexit, or whatever the hell we're gonna call the next one.
You're just on a roll today, brother.
I'm on a roll today, buddy. But it's gonna get weird. I'm not convinced that all these European countries are actually going to withdraw, especially after, I don't know. It blows my mind. We've seen people like Marine Le Pen head, and we're coming up with nicknames for people now on the show, Mike. It's great.
Yes, I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, how far we've come. But Marine Le Pen, you see the pound lose so much of its value. I hear it's actually worth 11 ounces.
I know, and it's dropping. I mean, it's great for tourism.
It's a joke.
It's great for tourism, right? I mean, the dropping of the pound. Yes, I know. But anyway, it's the dropping of the pound. Yes, thank you, Adam. Yeah. You just keep coming out with them today.
It's only 11 ounces now.
I hate to say it, I told you so. With this type of bullshit. Yeah. These Trump supporters, these supporters of the UK Independence Party. Racist, but they don't want to admit they're racists, lacking an basic understanding of the world. They get emotional about politics. For them, they got these really fucking simple ways of viewing the world.
This is kind of related to the main issue about Brexit that I wanted to bring up. It's the whole notion taking these complex issues, putting into a damn referendum. I don't really see the logic in that. And I've been thinking about it since it happened. This article in The Guardian by a famous comedian that was on Peep Show. Can't remember his name right now. But he wrote an op-ed about this. We elect leaders to make complex decisions because we have to go to work. We got to take care of our kids. We got to do dishes, laundry, taxes. We don't have time to be experts, all of us, on European politics, economy, international relations.
This one article that we both read this week, after the voting took place, the second most research thing on Google by people in Great Britain is, what is the EU? At this point in time, if you do not know what this institution is, you shouldn't be voting. You're right. It's an incredibly complex issue. I teach an AP political science class. I teach Great Britain and the European Union as one of the case studies. And it's phenomenally complex. And you're right. It shouldn't be left up to the average voter. It's more like mob rule.
Yeah.
When we have referendums on these type of issues, these are complex trade deals, and I don't think most people in Great Britain understood the ramifications of what would happen by leaving the EU.
People are actually saying there's probably going to be a Brexit-led recession, not just for Britain, but a global recession.
In the short term, there's definitely going to be a recession because the investors are scared now. They don't know if I'm going to put a company in London, are they going to have access to the EU in the future? That's why London became an international capital. People would establish their businesses there, and from there they could invest in the rest of the EU. They're not sure, and that's why a lot of it pulled out their investments out of the country. The stock market has just plunged. That's just in the short term. There are long-term costs to this as well, and I know there are people who are economists who support leaving the EU, but most don't. They lose access to this huge market of over 1 billion people. Right. So this is it was just a total clusterfuck of a mistake.
I can't think of a decent reason. I mean, there is this argument about sovereignty. The UK to the European Union is not supposed to be equivalent to Wyoming to the United States. It's not supposed to be like that.
It's supposed to be a confederacy. It's where you have a weak central government with strong local subunits.
Right. But people that keep arguing that, why should the Brits be content to let Brussels tell them what to do? Waffle-loving sons of bitches.
This argument is such bullshit. It's bullshit. First off, Brussels, this is just where you have the Commission, European Council meeting.
They make it seem like the Emperor of Brussels is telling them what to do.
I know. It's like the king of the waffles is making decisions for us, man.
Yeah.
It's such bull. It's like, look, the representatives of the EU, they're directly chosen by the heads of state and the heads of government of each of the 28 member states.
I think maybe even that might be a mistake, because I think, both of us probably agree that people are better when they're connected like this, but broadening the spectrum beyond just the Brexit. But I would like to see more transnational cooperative political units in other parts of the world. And, we have some of them in some ways, like the Arab League, which is basically a dumpster fire. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, Arab League is a joke. Well, what makes the European Union viable is people have shit that they could actually trade with each other. Arab states don't trade with each other. They produce oil and they send it to more developed countries. Yeah. The EU has that advantage. I think Latin America, there's a possibility in the future because their economies are a little more dynamic, especially Mexico, Brazil. So maybe Latin America has some potential there. But the EU, for me, I mean, it was just this is a beautiful thing over 70 years, man, where they were able to create this institution. And it's not just, by the way, the economic aspect. We've only talked about economics, free movement of goods and people. There's also the political aspects. To be a member of the EU, you have to be a democratic state. The Supreme Court of the European Union, they could shoot down laws in member states that are anti-democratic, that go against civil rights. This is why so many liberals are up in arms in Great Britain about leaving the EU. It was a protection for democratic rights throughout the entire continent.
Well, the fallout of the Brexit vote, David Cameron stepping down. There are already people saying that Boris Johnson, the mayor of London, will probably run to replace him. But there's also Nigel Farage. We're probably pronouncing his name wrong because he's a British redneck that probably doesn't pronounce G's as J's. No, his name is Nigel Farage, in all seriousness.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he might run. I mean, if we see the right take over Britain like we've seen in France with Marine Le Pen.
She came in second in the runoff. She made it to the second round. And I mean, I'm looking at the different election results, the trends. Parties like the ones we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, they only had about 1%, 2% support in the 1990s.
Yeah.
The last couple of days,
on the rise,
it's quadrupled. Most of these parties have 20% support.
Mike, what is your take on, because Parag Khanna has this new book called Connectography. There's an article in Wired where he kind of gave his reaction to the Brexit stuff. His whole thing, we're becoming more interconnected, and it's actually one of the most beneficial things about the new international system and about technology. It's true physically with airports and more open borders, more trade, or whether it's about better internet access, we're becoming better connected. cities and quote unquote mega cities are becoming the bigger players rather than states. In my mind, as we become more interconnected, I feel like there is this this lingering conservative aspect that hates the interconnection because of the multiculturalism. It's just race-based.
Psychologists and educational experts would have a field day here, because this is a wonderful thing, right? With this interconnectivity, the spread of ideas throughout the globe, cultural diffusion. Young people, because they're born into it, they're used to it. They don't think anything about learning about different religions, different cultures, interacting with different people across the globe. I know my students are quite open to it. But the older generation, people in Europe who are like 50, 60, 70 years old, who are not old enough to remember World War II, but are too old to have grown up during like this age of globalization. This is the generation that's having this backlash. Because if you looked at the EU, the voting in Great Britain on the referendum,
it was so stark between the youth and the old folks, older generation, I should say. It was about 75% of young people voted to remain. And then it got less and less the older the demographic was.
Yeah, the tragedy behind that is that it's the young people that have to live with this decision.
A friend of mine actually made a similar argument about Bernie Sanders getting screwed here because he had overwhelmingly young people's votes here. It's not, and so obviously it's not unique to the United Kingdom that old people screw the young people, and not in a fun way, we should say. But before we move on from Brexit, all this topic of secession has brought up another dumb idea, notably Texit. I'm from Texas, and you know, Mike, I know you're about to make a shitty joke about you wanting Texas to secede from the United States, but no, it's a stupid idea.
You stole my idea, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you make that joke.
Look, one big southern state, and the entire United States turns left. All right, so to sacrifice the people of Texas.
You mean my family and my loved ones, like Casey Rogers, the other host of this show? You're just going to sacrifice them while he's not around? That's nice.
I could always get a visa and visit you guys in the independent Republic of Texas. It'll be fun.
The Democratic People's Republic of Texas, obviously. Thanks. No, I mean, to me, you know, it would obviously be the same economic effects. The only reason Texas isn't one of the many southern states that have these quote-unquote small government, little regulation that doesn't owe a huge debt to the federal government. The only reason Texas gets away with that, without that kind of pull, is because of oil.
If Texas became independent, would they become like a rentier state in the Gulf, where you just have like an oil-driven economy? Would they turn into like an authoritarian state eventually? I mean, it's interesting. We got the conservative Christian culture, the overdependence on a single resource.
Well, you know, the main thing, people in Texas, they do value democracy. And aside from all the economic ramifications, the political ramifications, most Texans identify as American as well as Texas, and they wouldn't want to choose between that. So I think it's a lot different between the European Union, who, you know, the British aren't running around saying, I'm proud to be European. So in Texas, everyone's proud to be American.
It's interesting, though. I mean, I think across the United States, I've read this poll, or the number, 25% of people would consider, you know, voting on having their state secede from the Union. This number's grown in the last decade. Yeah. So right now it kind of sounds silly, but
it's definitely silly.
It's happened before in U.S. history. I mean, if you go back to, of course, the Civil War, it wouldn't have a lack of president. And if things continue heading on this trend where, you know, especially with this partisan divide between the North and the South in the United States, left versus right, the possibility in the future of secession is, I don't think it's that far out of the question where we shouldn't take it seriously at all. I think it is actually a possibility, however remote that possibility is.
I'm trying to bear with you, Mike, but honestly, I don't take it very seriously. I don't think we're actually going to see a Texit or a Flexit, a Wyomexit. We're not going to see. I don't think these things are actually going to happen.
We're going to have to come up with something better than Wyomexic.
People debate about the European Union, whether it's functional, whether it does good things, whether it does bad things. I don't think anyone debates whether, you know, the wisdom of having a United States, a union. There are, I mean, not rational people. There are certainly people. There are people that say Texas should cede. Those people are all very dumb. I'm not afraid to say, and frankly unbearable to be around. It's like anytime you meet someone who has one issue they're really passionate about, and they're just kind of nuts about it. Like me and robots. Example. Anytime I meet someone who's really into Texas secession, it's just I get over that pretty quick.
And I mean, I feel it's just as irrational to break apart the EU. I mean, this is an institution that's been around for 60 years. And just to give people an idea of how successful this institution's been, there hasn't been a single war or major conflict between any of the member states since it was founded as a league for 7 states to share, steel and coal resources back in the 1950s. And I think people really underestimate just how successful it has been.
Thanks for joining us today on Future Left Podcast. I'm Adam Simpson. Say bye, Mike. No? Okay. Check us out at futureleft.org. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. Tell your friends. Tell your spouse. Tell your neighbor. Just irritate your neighbor. Put up flyers for us. We'll see you next week. Bye.